Hey, buddy, do you like to swing? Come with me. You're listening to Emma Claire, the best of all things swinging on Prohibition Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Prohibition Radio Show. I'm Emma Claire. It's June and summer has finally arrived in the UK. It is absolutely gorgeous here today. I hope the sun is shining for you wherever you are in the world. Now, I just need to let you know that if you're expecting the music selection, then you need to head over to YouTube/Prohibition Manchester or Mixcloud/Prohibition MCR. This is a new format, so this show is dedicated to our interview series. This month we've got the lovely Electro Swing Singer-Songwriter Alanna Lyes. She used to front a funk band called Grinny Grandad. Since then she's gone on to collaborate with artists all the way around the world, including Wolfgang Lohr, Balduin, Varick Frost. The list goes on. She's got lots of exciting things to talk about. So I'm handing over now to Nanook, and that's all from me, so I hope you enjoy.
Prohibition Radio, coming live and direct from Manchester, England. Yes, swinging.
Hello, mate.
Yay, I can hear you.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Very welcome, you're very welcome. So starting from the top, for the listeners that aren't familiar with yourself, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
So my name is Alanna Lyes, as I'm known in the music world. I actually come from the Isle of Man, which is this tiny little place in the middle of the Irish Sea, if anyone's never heard of it. About 4 or 5 years ago, I moved over to York just to be in England, really, just so I was with my family, so that I was kind of able to have a bit more opportunity, so that we could all have more opportunity, and particularly me with music, because as lovely as the Isle of Man music scene is, it's very hard to take it very far. So, just came over here to be able to pursue it a bit more, really.
It's not the biggest island, is it?
No, I think there's about 90,000 people, and you could go end to end in probably about 40 minutes in the car. So it was a bit of a strange thing when I came to England. I thought it was a massive deal when I went to Hull.
It's going to be limited opportunities on such a small island. So yeah, I can appreciate why you made the move. So how did the Alanna Lyes project come about? When did that first start, and what sort of inspired you to get interested in music and, start your journey into the music industry?
Yeah, it was sort of by accident. I was obviously intending to be doing more with music, but as I said, coming from a really small island, it was like the goalposts are always just moving. Originally, I moved here just thinking, wouldn't it be amazing if I could sing every week and have people actually hear me? Like, I just thought that was it. I was just going to be going into a pub and that was going to be amazing. And then I managed to get in touch with Chris from Grinny Grandad. He was looking for a singer. I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. He's from York. So I got into the band. They really liked the sound of my voice. That was another massive step up. I was suddenly being able to perform for thousands of people at festivals and events. And then within that, I kind of was able to meet a lot more people, and it's really just kind of grabbing every opportunity. Like, I would not be afraid to just go forward and embarrass myself and say, oh, I love your work. Please, 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 can I sing on your track? And I did that. And Baldwin were the first ones who very kindly just took a chance and was like, yeah, sure, go for it, have a sing. And so then I did Dizzy, and that did really, really well. And I was they just sort of put my first name on it. They just put Alanna. And then it was when I got in touch with Duke Skellington, because I really liked some of his stuff, that they wanted, he did a track with me, and there was a label who wanted to put it on a compilation. And they said, what does she want to be called? Like, what's her name? And I was like, oh God, I need like an actual name. So just kind of by accident, I just said on my girls group, I was like, what can I be called? I don't really want to be called Alanna Cowley. So what can I be called? And yeah, Alanna Lyes. There you go. I don't know why, but it is.
and that's how it started.
That's how it started.
You mentioned Grinny Grandad in there. Who are the members and where are they from?
If I listed every member that was ever in Grinny Grandad, we'd be probably here for about 3 hours. It's been a kind of ever evolving project that was started by Chris, also known as Mo, probably about like 15 years ago.
All right.
It's gone through so many changes as well. Like, you know, they've had different singers, they've had different members, different musicians join in. And I mean, in its current state, there's me as the vocalist. There was Kimberly Kennedy, who's a fantastic vocalist as well. She was in the band and she's had a lot of input on, well, she's written a lot of the tracks, had a lot of releases as well. And we've had, obviously Chris has been there since the beginning. Johnny, drummer, and we've got Kat on sax, we've got Vinny on sax as well. So many different musicians. It's just been an ever evolving project.
Fairly long list.
Yeah, could go on forever. I don't think I could even really tell you who is in it right now because it's just like forever changing. But
do you know what? That's quite good in a way though, because you get an influence of all the different artists. You know, because there are some projects and it might be one front man or front woman to the project, but then when you bring in other artists and they bring in their skills and experiences and influences, it might send the group or the band off on a slightly different tangent. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, you sort of diversifying and expanding, and I suppose that's one of the reasons why Grinny Grandad has, is quite a unique sound rather than just having been influenced by something really narrow. You've got, broad influence, I guess.
Definitely. I mean, Mo, his influence is always going to be really strong in the band, obviously. He's very sort of into a lot of electro funk, sort of glitchy sort of stuff as well. There's a lot of like 60s influences, a lot heavily. And that's always going to be really strong. But whenever they've brought in new musicians, whenever we've kind of had different vocalists, that's always had a really big part as well. If you sort of listen to the backlog, it goes for everything from really kind of poppy stuff, really sort of funky stuff. There's some really kind of more R&B sort of inspired things, kind of rocky 60s stuff. And then I was kind of more into the sort of swing side. So I kind of brought a little bit of that in as well. So yeah, you can kind of look back and see where the vocalists or the musicians have changed because it has kind of had that influence, which is, it's really good. It's a really eclectic but fun kind of group of music. So
I like it. So Grinny Grandad are currently with Freshly Squeezed, yeah?
Yes.
And that's Nick Hollywood's label, is it not?
It is indeed, yeah, great guy.
How did you meet Nick and come to work with him?
Well, Mo knew him originally, really. I think they kind of talked about it for a while. Because I only joined the band in, I think about 2015 or something like that. So it had been, they'd kind of been speaking for a while, I think. And tracks got finished off that Nick really liked. So, and then I remember me, Chris and Johnny went down to London, near London, to meet with them and had a little chat and stuff, and just kind of went from there, really.
Nice. Am I correct in thinking that you teach music outside of your production, an artist and singing career? I
do.
You teach full time? Yeah,
I am. So I've been teaching for about a year and a half with a incredible company called Rocksteady Music School, who it's all very much inspire first, teach second. That's the sort of motto of the company, that
nice.
Trying to inspire young children to just want to play music. The barriers are down. We don't use sheet music at all. It's all like rock music, pop music, just fun. And they only employ people who are kind of professional musicians or somebody who's going to be a role model to kids. And, you can come into school, because we go into primary schools, go into school on a Monday morning and tell them all about the festival you've just been performing at. And all these kids are like jaw drop and they just think it's amazing. And it makes them want to do it. So, I've been with that. Teaching with them for about a year and a half, and also singing to students online and songwriting and stuff as well. So it's really fun, and it's really rewarding to see the children sort of be inspired by that and pick up all these things. And they're so talented. Like, children they're like sponges. They are so capable of so much. And to be honest, like the kids I've taught, they pick up things 10 times quicker than I ever would. Because I think when you're a child, you just pick up things and you're not afraid. You're not there's no end game. I think now when I'm learning things, I'm always kind of trying to do it for a purpose. It's like when you're a kid, it's just fun. There's no boundaries. There's no reason for it it's just to have fun. So yeah, it's nice to kind of go back to that sometimes and just remember that it is fun to make music.
once you've been working within the music industry for however long, you almost have, every project's got a preconceived outcome that you want, you know.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be like, oh, I'm writing this track because it's going to go on my EP, or I'm writing this track because I'm hoping such and such a vocalist will sing on top of it, or, you know, there's always something. But those kids, you know, below a certain age, or, you know, people that haven't worked within the music industry, there's no preconceptions, or they're not jaded. They're just doing it, like you say, because it's fun. It's almost like more artistic in a certain sense, because they just want to do it for the sake of doing it. I find that quite inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, I think a lot of me working with the kids the past couple of years has inspired me, and to just kind of think about myself a bit more, and it's like go back to having fun and doing it because I want to enjoy it at the time.
Nice. You recently posted a cover of Imelda May's Big Bad Handsome Man.
She's fantastic. Yeah, I love Imelda May.
You were playing piano in that, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
And is that something that you've always done? You know, do you play any other instruments? Do you find sort of influence from? Yeah,
I mean, I come from a really musical family. My dad plays everything, and a lot of my family are very musical as well. And we were all, you know, every house we would always have, because my dad loved to record, he would have a recording studio and he would bring artists in and he would record them, and he was he is the director of an arts centre, so he was always bringing bands over, and like we were just surrounded by musicians all the time. And so I kind of tried a lot of instruments, and to be honest, I think I was just really lazy. I could never keep it up. The practice, I'd probably get to grade 1 of every single instrument in the world and just give it up, which I definitely don't recommend. Not good. It wasn't good. But to be honest, it made me discover singing more, because I got kind of into musical theatre, and I loved singing and I loved dancing. And then when I was a bit older, I kind of realised that, you know, I did kind of need to be able to accompany myself a little bit better, because I wasn't great at any instrument. And so I'd always kind of kept the piano going, because it was something that I was always better at out of the instruments. And then I just picked it up again, and I started taking jazz piano lessons, which was probably a terrible idea because it's really hard. And especially as I didn't really have a very solid grounding. But it really pushed me, because my teacher would not let me do any chord unless it had like a ninth or a sharp 11 or whatever. And so it really pushed knowledge and theory of music and got me into more the jazz side. But yeah, I do. I also play a bit of drums, guitar. That's what I teach with Rocksteady: drums, guitar, vocals, and piano, well, keyboard, and bass guitar as well. But I wouldn't say that I would ever play in a band in anything other than vocals or piano.
That might be an interesting side project to see at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the one woman band, sorry.
Now, ordinarily, I'd ask at some point what your main musical influences were, but to be honest, it sounds more interesting to talk about your dad for a second there. Do you feel that, like, having that scenario as you were growing up and having a musical parent was as bigger influence as perhaps some people find, you know, being exposed to music early? And lots of musicians I speak to maybe have got memories of dad chucking a record on and that inspired them, stuff like early Motown or whatever. Do you feel your dad was as much of a big inspiration? Definitely.
I mean, he, in all ways, my dad's been my absolute hero, and he'll be crying when he hears that. I'd be so proud. No, he's like, there's always been music around. Like, my mum is really musical as well. All my brothers and sisters are. Yeah, we were all really musical. My dad particularly, though, he was always in bands. He would always take us to festivals, whether it was because he was playing or just because they wanted to go on a family holiday where they thought we might all go and enjoy it, because we're quite far apart in age. Like, I was younger and I had, you know, older teenage siblings. So they found that music festivals were a really great place to take all the kids. And so, yeah, we just grew up with it. And we would, like, my dad used to play at Brittany, Lorient Festival, and it still does sometimes. And so, like, that's massive. And that's, like, such an experience for a child. Yeah. And so, yeah, just being surrounded by that all the time. And I'd have, you know, there would be musicians that would come in and they just sort of, you know, they just sit down and chat to me, like some ridiculous things. Like, I was 13 and Robert Plant was just in my house, just, you know, having a beer. And like, we'd have one of my dad's really, really close friends, Christine Collister. She was so lovely, and she's really, really talented. And she said, I remember we sat down for dinner and she was talking to me, and I was probably about 17. And at this point, I could not write music at all. I loved singing, but every time I tried, it just sounded awful. And she said, well, don't give up, because if you are serious about this, you have to write original stuff. And it's like something really simple, but just things like that really sort of hit home. And my dad would always reinforce that as well. And he would always try and keep me playing, whether it was singing or playing piano. And when I was probably about 18, he had quite a serious car accident, and it meant that he couldn't walk for a long time. So music was his life, and he would just be playing all the time. And so the background to my life was just him playing, whether it was accordion or piano. And yeah, just having that around all the time is always going to be a massive influence.
Being surrounded by that sort of influence, it can't have not had an impact. That's pretty massive. So moving on, after your sort of early influences, when did you get into going out, partying, festivaling, going to concerts yourself to sort of gain inspiration through, the actual music scene, from a punter's perspective?
That's actually quite hard for when you live on the Isle of Man. There's just hardly anything. No, there's a lot of local talent, and there's so many talented musicians. And so I was always going, as I said, like as a kid, always going to festivals. My parents would take us across as like a family holiday, so we'd go to a festival then. But a lot of the time, it was just kind of seeing local bands at open mic nights. They'd have Manx music festivals, which was a lot of kind of folk music, really. But there was quite a lot of blues and jazz as well. They had like a monthly blues club, which I loved going to, especially as a teenager. I would go and sing there with my dad. But yeah, sometimes they did bring bands over, and it was really exciting. It was like people who, no offense if anybody likes them, but I did not very much, Snow Patrol. Bands like that, it would come over and we'd pay like £50 just to see them, just because we'd heard of them. So yeah, it was hard on the Isle of Man, but there was a lot of local talent, which was good. And then my yearly birthday present would be to go and see a concert in England, which was very exciting. Nice. It was a big event when you live in the Isle of Man. It's not something that you just got readily available to just go and see these bands. So it was a really big deal, and it wouldn't happen very often. But when it did, it was very exciting.
You've hit upon a key thing there, that I think when people live, in a metropolitan area or somewhere that's quite congested with music, somewhere like Manchester or London, under normal circumstances, obviously when we're not in a lockdown, there's so many gigs on a daily basis. I think some people forget about how awesome it is to just be able to go out on your doorstep and see live music.
Yeah, I was always so jealous. It was such a massive deal to just be able to go and see one band a year.
Yeah, I can imagine. So obviously I've just touched on a topic there which I'd like to sort of discuss. We're in a quarantine situation currently with the pandemic that's occurring. And that's sadly obviously had a huge impact on festivals and gigs. From all perspectives, we've all had bookings cancelled from an artist perspective, and then there's obviously gigs and concerts and whatnot that we might have wanted to go to as well. How are you filling your time through this summer, whereas ordinarily, in the past you've played a fairly stacked festival calendar? What are you doing this summer?
Yeah, it was actually going to be the busiest summer ever. And I think it was as soon as I kind of found out about the possibility of lockdown and whatever, quite quickly in my mind I just accepted that nothing was going to happen. And hopefully that's not true, but it's best to try and switch to the mindset that nothing's going to happen and anything else is a bonus. So I've actually dealt with it quite well, considering it was so many things was supposed to be happening. But yeah, just kind of actually really enjoying having the time to focus on my own music. I don't think I would have really sat down at a piano and just written as much as I have if I, had so many other busy things to do and was at work and whatever. But also, just, I've got an 8-year-old. That's pretty much taking up my entire day. So, yeah, but enjoying sort of having the time with him, because the stuff that he learns at school, I have no idea. Like, he goes off and he comes home and he can't even remember what he's had for lunch. So it's been quite nice to know what he's learning and to kind of be a part of that. Been
homeschooling as well and getting involved in his lessons and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I am going to be the parent that every other parent hates. Like, I've been very committed to this homeschooling. Yeah, I think my son is he's wonderful, but if he thought there wasn't even a chance that he didn't have to do it, he wouldn't do anything. So I have been very, very strict.
Good on you. So I've just been having a quick browse before we spoke, or before we jumped on this call, and I was having a look at your Spotify. You're pretty active on Spotify. You get like 20,000 plus listens a month, which is awesome. And you've just started your Alanna Lyes jukebox, haven't you?
Yeah, that was really just because, previously it was like hundreds, but Wolfgang Law, he's an absolute gem. I would never ever say anything but amazing things about him, and he did something that really I don't think I've ever seen when he released a couple of tracks. I think it was just the Riff Kitten ones that me and Riff Kitten worked on together. He listed me as an and rather than a featuring, and I've seen that he's done that with the producer's permission for a couple of vocalists, and I think that's like a really massive thing to recognize the vocalist as such a massive part of the songwriting, and to list them not as featuring is huge, and it means that we're then listed and linked to through the track, so people can directly go to our Spotify, which is massive, and obviously had a massive impact because it's gone from about like 400 to 2,000 20,000. So honestly, I'm really grateful to him for that, and I think that it's wonderful, and in a lot of ways quite right. Vocalists do put a lot in, and I think probably more than some people realize. Like, obviously I can't even fathom the work that producers put in, but also vocalists put a lot as well, and we work really hard and kind of give away stories that are really quite personal. So I think it's wonderful that he's sort of helped vocalists out as well.
I think that recognition is, that he's given through that act is for me personally, that would be just as important as the hits, on Spotify. So obviously it's nice to know people are listening to your stuff and you're getting that exposure as an artist. What you want is for people to listen, but to have someone who's as big in the industry as Wolfgang is to recognize you as a mutual artist, as a producer, that's got to be quite nice, eh?
Yeah, it's really nice, and and he's such a nice guy and such a talented producer as well. I'm very fond of him. He's very an incredible guy, really.
That's awesome. And I think that leads quite nicely onto a topic that might be contentious for some, but I'd hoped to discuss, and that's the attitudes towards female artists in the industry. Now, as a DJ, producer, promoter, etc. myself, one bugbear that I've always had is what I call sort of like token feminism, which is when you see people do like all female lineups at club nights and things like that, and it's just to make a feature of the fact that, well, we can get 6 female DJs on a lineup, not actually booking them for their artistic merit.
Yeah, I think ultimately, I mean, I can't speak for all women, but certainly I would always want to be there for value, not for being token. And also, like, some people can kind of, they think, oh, well, I'll put on one female night and then that's kind of, my work done and I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's like, no, it should be a constant thing. It should be constant. You should be always looking for the best DJs, whether they're male, female, whatever, or they're the best artists, the best vocalists. And we should be trying to support female artists more, because it is really hard, and particularly producers, it's so male dominated, but in all areas of music really. And so the more we can support them, the better. But at the same time, nobody wants to feel like that token person. You want to be there for the hard work that you're doing, and
booked on your own merit.
Exactly. No, I think it's really important. You're there because you work hard for it, whether you're male or female.
100% agree. 100% agree. And do you think that that's an attitude that's gradually changing within the industry? And do you think we're on the right track, or do you think there's more that we can be doing, as right the way from punters to artists to promoters to producers? Do you think there's more that we can be doing collectively to be ensuring that artists are booked on their merit rather than on their gender or sexuality or how they look or, anything sort of more superficial like that?
I think there's always more that we can do. I think, it just has to be a constant kind of evolution, and always, as long as people are always striving to be better and try harder. And I don't think we should ever be complacent. We should never just kind of give up and think, yeah, that'll do, that's fine. As I said, just because you put on a female night, it doesn't mean that you're done. Keep
100% agree.
Everyone should always keep going and always keep trying harder. I think if you do look at a list of DJs, producers, artists, it is really male dominated, and hopefully it is getting better. There are more females rising through, more female producers, more female artists, and I think, as I said, things like recognizing vocalists, because as an equal part is really incredible and very, very commendable.
I like that. So as a female artist, because you looking at the music industry from a few different angles, obviously as a music teacher, as a vocalist, as a producer in your own right, obviously you've got solo work coming up. What challenges have you faced that seem to be across the board, regardless of what angle you come in at the industry?
I think that personally, I've always felt, to be honest, I'm probably my own biggest challenge. I think I've always not seen myself as valid as a lot of others. I think as a female, when you go and perform in a band, I always get kind of snidey comments from certain, some people are lovely, some people not so much. And you get some pretty inappropriate comments. As the vocalist, you're always kind of assumed that you don't know anything other than how to open your mouth, and so you kind of, everyone else gets left to it, and then you get some pretty condescending offers to help you change the mic stand height and things. It's like, I can manage things. But so I think it's really, there is unfortunately still some kind of stereotypes, and I think that's probably the biggest thing. But also from that, I've always kind of felt like I wasn't as, if I wasn't as technical, then I wasn't as worthy in the music industry and things like that. And I, again, been really nice to kind of just take a step back and just sit at a piano and seeing the merit of your own work, that, just because you're not doing something that others are doing, it doesn't make it any less valid. So sometimes I think I can be my own worst enemy with it.
I think we can all be our own worst enemy.
Really answer your question there, didn't I? I was kind of more just talking about things.
No, it was a perfectly valid answer, perfectly valid. And I think you hit on a key word for me, which is that sort of stereotypes, regardless of whether it's a gender stereotype or a lead singer stereotype, as you just mentioned there, assuming that the only thing you know how to do is sing. That's a sort of bugbear of mine. It's basically the epitome of judging a book by its cover, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think a lot, to be honest, probably a lot more female artists and female DJs and producers are probably more, have had a lot more of that. I've actually been really quite lucky. I have had obviously stereotypes when I'm singing and people sort of reacting a little bit negatively. But in general, I've actually been very lucky with the people that I've worked with, mostly male. I sought out Emma CLAIR because she was a great female producer. I really loved the work that she was doing. And I think it is important to be supporting female artists, but I am really lucky that everyone, male and female, that I've worked with has been really lovely, and that's never really been an issue. So I think I've personally been very lucky, but I'm sure that a lot of female artists have struggled probably a lot more than I have.
Yeah. Have you ever come across anything that's openly and aggressively sexist? I've heard some scenarios of people being refused opportunities based on gender. Is that anything that you've ever come across in regards to being a female producer and singer-songwriter? And
I've never actually been refused anything because of gender, but I've certainly had a lot of sexism directed my way. But it's more kind of very inappropriate. But it really does push you on, though. It's never going to be a positive, but I think you really have to try and turn it into something else and learn from it. And not just in the music industry, in just life. I, as have so many, have experienced a lot of negative feedback and energy from people because of my gender. And it took, I always kind of grew up with that mindset. I just would accept it and would feel that way about myself as well. And it took me a really, really long time to accept that wasn't okay. And a lot of the music that I'm doing now is really quite strongly influenced by that.
Those sorts of scenarios whereby, perhaps people have said something inappropriate, or I find that over a period of time, and this is something I've witnessed with, lots of friends within the industry, over a period of time, comments like that can have quite an insidious effect or impact on people's self-confidence, on people's, it's almost like you're gradually gaslighted into believing a certain thing that's not necessarily true. You can start developing like imposter syndrome, of like, am I really good enough to be here on this stage in front of all these people? And I think that's something that younger artists aren't always aware of, is like the impact that, it is a tough industry, isn't it?
It is. It's really tough. And like everything you said, absolutely true. This time as being in lockdown, you do kind of look back and consider a lot of things. And I think a lot of people are kind of reflecting on a lot of things. And I particularly, I'm not afraid to talk about now that, I had a really pretty tough time. I had to have a lot of therapy because through years and years of feeling that way and feeling like partly that I wasn't good enough, that I was never going to be as good as other people, that I, as a female, didn't really have a voice. It took a long time to see that that's not true at all. And if I could say anything to, any artist, but particularly the sort of emerging female artists, is that try and figure that out sooner. Nobody is ever going to have any control over you. You're the only person that can control yourself. Just try and see that that's not you. That's how the people may view you, and you can't do anything about that. And that's a horrible thing, but you can do something about how you feel about yourself.
That's really good advice. And I think that for me, having an opportunity to talk about this is great. And one thing that I'd probably add to that from my own experience within the music scene is it's important to be aware that that's a thing first and foremost before you start maybe coming to the scenario whereby you can deal with it, and whether it's through therapy or just even talking to friends about it. Young artists who are perhaps a little bit, like you say, emergent, but they might be naive of the wider scene and the implications of it as a whole, they might not be aware that that sort of emotional state and the emotional stresses artists can go through is a thing. And, and being aware of it, in my opinion, is the first step, to then being able to grow yourself and become more self-aware and to be, develop as an artist, because I think that can influence you massively, going through those scenarios. And on your Facebook page, you've posted pictures and you mentioned your photo shoots that you've done, like wearing glitter and whatnot. But there's also been times like your Imelda May cover, which is just you sat in your glasses, not overly done up, just being you naturally. Do you think it's important to show sort of both sides of your personality, or multiple sides of your personality rather?
Yeah, I think from a personal point of view, it's nice for people to see that you are human. I think you can try. Sometimes you put on a bit of a persona, and particularly like with the sort of Alanna Lyes thing, it's very much a sultry, very towards that sultry feel. But at the same time, I don't want people to think that that's like who I am, because I'm actually a big dork, and
there's more to you than that. There's more to you than glitter and glam shots.
Yeah, completely. I was not girly. The reason I had to be done up by a makeup artist is because if I did it myself, I'd look like a monster. I think it's really important in general, that people don't see the standard as, this as done up and, in fancy clothes and whatever, and with your hair perfectly in place and whatever. It should be that you can look however you want and it's fine. I'm lucky enough to be married to someone who will, tell me that I'm beautiful, whether I look like, in my opinion, a monster or not. And I think that that's how the world should view everybody. That, it doesn't matter. I can be one to talk, because, I take off my glasses and I put on contacts and I put on fancy makeup and whatever when I'm doing a photo shoot, because it's how I sort of see that I look my best, I guess. But
yeah,
it shouldn't be that way. I should feel comfortable to go out in sweats and glasses and whatever. But I think, I'm certainly getting more confident and comfortable in that, and I hope that generally the world is getting more comfortable and accepting of any visual.
I've got full respect for that. On a personal note, I've got full respect for that. You're not feeling like I just use that Imelda May cover as an example, because that was the most recent one that I saw. I've got full respect for people that can just put themselves out on social media and not constantly feel the need to be done up and say, look, yeah, of course I'm going to have my hair done. Of course I'm going to have a bit of makeup. Of course I might pick a new outfit if I'm on stage, if I'm going to be doing a photo shoot for some album artwork or something. But I think new artists to the industry need to perhaps appreciate, and your examples earlier are perfect, that there is more to life. Sometimes social media can drag people into thinking that life is one big photo shoot. Yeah, and it's just not the case.
I think it's really important for sort of more well-known artists as well to kind of push that, because that's who people are looking to. And if they just see perfectly photoshopped people, then they're always going to, hold that as their standard, what they're striving towards. And again, like for the sort of male female thing, like if men see that all the time, or women or whatever, they're always going to see that as what beautiful is, or what people should look like. And we should be trying to put out more images of every size, color, whatever, everything is beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that it's important as well. I mean, from my perspective, the example that always stands out the most is, you get sort of stereotypes of image. So like DJ promo shots within the techno scene, it's always like black and white, moody looking, photo shoots within the electro swing scene. There's always like an element of vintage, or, like a headdress or something. And it's like, you can enjoy that music without fitting into that pigeonhole.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think nobody should ever try and be pigeonholed by anything. As we said earlier, whether it's the kind of music you're doing, whether it's, how you look or whatever. Like, I went to the last photo shoot I did. The photographer was, he made a joke, and he said, like, because I was kind of laughing and smiling, he was like, aren't models supposed to be just looking miserable and pouting? I'm like, I am not a model, okay? I will look how I want.
Perfect. So we're going to just quickly change angle here, and we're going to have a few questions from some of our fans. We've got one from Mr. Francis Alford, who's a regular at our parties, quite often comments on social media as well. He's asked, how did you find playing at Beat Herder Festival with Grinny Grandad, and any stories to tell there?
Oh, it was really fun. Yeah. As I said, it was like Grinny Grandad was kind of the stepping stone into the music industry for me. And it was like nothing I'd ever seen before, because, I'd gone to festivals as a kid, but I never dreamed that I would ever be able to perform at any festival, never mind like one as cool and great as Beat Herder. And it's just such a fun festival. I think all the little touches, like the hidden swimming pool, which I still have never got into, which I'm very sad about. I don't
think it exists.
No, but I've seen so many pictures. I know where it is. Like, as far as
they were all staged beforehand.
Oh, that's really upset me now. No, but, so yeah, it's just like, it's such a good festival and it's so much fun. And being able to perform on the main stage particularly was so much fun. And just like having, because like we've gone through a lot of different lineups, as I said, and it was really fun when there was loads of us. There was about 7 of us in our biggest lineup. So really filling the stage. But then even when there was only 3 of us, it was really fun to just have the space to just jump around and run around and see everyone's faces out in the fields, just having fun. Yeah, it was an incredible experiences, I should say.
Fantastic.
And one we're really going to miss this year.
It's a shame, obviously, the festival scene's been impacted, but, hopefully that won't have been your last opportunity to play Beat Herder. I'm sure they'll have you back at some point.
Yeah, they've always been really supportive of Really Grandad. Very, very, very fun festival. Oh, and the only story I can think of actually is I think it was it last year? I think it was last year or the year before. We were playing on the Sunday, so I was thinking, oh great, I've got ages. And shoved my face into a big bucket of aloe vera gel, and then shoved my face into the next big bucket of glitter, and then had to do the rest of the weekend like that.
Good skills. We've got a quick question from David McLean that's just come in. I've got a suspicion you've answered this earlier, talking about your father a little bit, but let's slant it a little bit. He asks, who are your main influences? So I guess let's have a talk about your main musical influences. Give us your top 3.
Okay, well, firstly, David McLean, you are one of my influences. That is my dada.
What is it?
It's my dad. Honestly, my number one fan. Biggest. Okay, top 3 influences.
The different surname threw me there.
Yeah. That was my maiden name.
There we go.
Really weird actually, because my dad owned a pharmacy called Cowley Pharmacy, and then I happened to marry a Cowley, so it was obviously
wow.
I know, it was weird. That's the old man. Everyone just knows each other. Yeah. Okay. Top 3 influences. Well, I would have to say Billie Holiday, because like when I heard her sing, it just basically changed my life. To be honest, I had never really fully got into kind of jazz, blues, swing, anything like that until quite a lot later in my teen years, because I will hold my hands up and say that I was very pop influenced. I loved just like EDM and would love show music as well. Changed quite a lot. But yeah, and then I kind of got into that more with my dad. My dad introduced me to Billie Holiday, and I heard it and I was like, how have I never heard this angel?
Absolutely awesome voice. But I can't help, every time I hear the name, think of that scene in the film Clueless. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I love the film Clueless.
Yeah. And he goes, I'm gonna put some Billie Holiday. Do you mind? And she goes, yeah, no, I love him. Go on, influence number 2.
Oh, okay. It's really hard, because I think I'm constantly just listening to new artists that I'm like, oh, they're my hero now. Whereas, 5 minutes ago it was someone else. For the kind of sort of sultry R&B vibe, I would have to say The Weeknd. I love him. I think his work is incredible. And actually, as much as some of it, it is kind of, again, that sort of female stereotype. Some of it is actually quite vulnerable. Like one of the songs is really like quite a desperate song, and it's kind of flipped it the other way around. Like he's very much in the vulnerable position, and there's this woman who could quite easily drop him, and he's just so desperate for her that he would just take one more night. He doesn't even care if she doesn't love him anymore. He's just so desperate to just be with her one more time, and it's really sad and tragic but very vulnerable song. And I just really like that sort of sultry dark R&B feel as well. So I would say him, and hopefully we're going to be out of lockdown, because I'm supposed to be seeing him in October.
Fingers crossed. Go on, third and final one.
I think I would have to say, can I combine 2? Caravan Palace I always love. Like, I know it's a classic one for the electro swing scene, but I just think their production is incredible. I think their songs are amazing, and kind of always sort of pushing the boundaries of it as well. It's not, a lot of the stuff isn't really typical electro swing at all, and it does kind of genre hop with a lot of different things. There's a lot of like hip hop influences, all sorts really. Like, I think they're incredible. And also I love the Dirty Moonshine Big Band. I think when I heard them, it kind of blew my mind as well with the Most Wanted album. And I saw their latest tour just before the lockdown came in Manchester, and they were just unbelievable, and all the new stuff is cracking as well. So I love them. Again, really pushing boundaries, and I love sort of like really dirty bass music and like more sort of grime influenced stuff. And I particularly love the Tommy and Loretta song. Like, to be honest, it's probably not my like standout track from the album. When I heard it, I loved it, but there was other tracks that I thought, oh, that's my favorite. But it's such a kind of cinematic song, and I think it is quite a different side to a lot of their tracks. Again, quite a sort of sultry but really quite tragic song, and with a massive backstory. So yeah, I really like that as well.
I've been lucky enough to support the Dutty Moonshine Big Band a couple of times, and I think for anyone who's listening that hasn't seen their live show, as soon as you get an opportunity to, you need to, because it's fantastic energy, and it's definitely worth seeing and listening. Next best thing, obviously, with the live shows not currently happening, get their album.
Yeah, definitely.
Quick fire round. We've got a couple of questions here. No thinking. Wine, beer, or spirits?
Oh, wine, rosé. I drink nothing else.
You've answered second one there, which is which one?
Rosé or cocktails. That's actually, yeah.
What's your musical guilty pleasure?
Show music. I still love it. I would happily go and watch Wicked for like the fourth time.
There we go. 3 things that you'd never go to a gig without.
I would never go to a gig without, I guess, some heels, because I'm really short and I would never see it. Contacts, because my glasses would just slip off because I get too sweaty. And it's a really tough question.
There you go. You can only have to name 2 if you want.
I think I go quite minimalist to a gig. I try not to have too much on me, because I want to be able to like jump around and go a bit mental.
I like that. Just to wrap up now, I mean, you've done a bunch of releases. I mean, I was having a look through the discography, and I'm sure there's going to be names here that I've missed. So if any of those people are listening, please don't take offence. But you've done stuff with Riff Kitten, you've done stuff with Wolfgang Love, Eric Frost, Prohibition leading lady Emma Claire, dozens of artists that you've worked with in one capacity or another, of course, Granny Grandad in all its incarnations and whatnot. What's next for you as an artist? Can we expect more collaborations? Have you got stuff of your own that you're brewing? When can we expect that?
I'm never going to stop collaborating with other artists, because whether I'm doing my own stuff or not, it's always, well, firstly, it's really fun, and it's really nice to just be like bouncing off other ideas, and particularly, if a producer already sort of has like the skeleton of a track ready, you can kind of sort of think, oh, that's really cool, and like get a bit of ideas, and then maybe you say like, oh, but what if you just arrange it in this way, or what if you add this there, or whatever. And it's really fun. And also, I have learned so much from working with other incredible producers that I would never have learned if I was just sat in a bedroom like trying to do it myself. So yeah, I'm always going to be collaborating with new people. I've had a list about like 20 people long that I've been gradually ticking off through the lockdown. I completely end up. There'll be plenty more coming out soon over the course of the year. And I'm working on my own music as well, as I sort of said. It's kind of the fun that I'm just enjoying making it, and like, so yeah, there's no kind of timeline on my own stuff really, but I have got plenty of stuff brewing that I'm really, really excited about, and I'm really proud of.
And we can't wait to hear it.
Thank you.
So is there anybody out of those list of people I just sort of mentioned, people that you've collaborated with and whatnot, anyone who sort of you want to give a quick shout out to that you're going to be working with over the next few months?
Oh, well, Riff Kitten, we've done some more stuff together. A few of his tracks that I've put vocals onto, which should be out this year. And he's also been helping me produce some of my own stuff as well. Atom Smith is not one of the ones from the previous list, but there's some stuff cooking there as well. God, I need to look at my to-do list, because I've like honestly forgotten everything.
Atom Smith being from Gentleman Callers of LA.
Yeah, he's an awesome producer as well.
For people that aren't familiar, check their stuff out. Yeah,
near their race. Wolfgang Law as well. We've got a new track coming out soon. LVDS that I did the Am I Real song with. We've got a sort of more kind of chill sort of jazz influence track that'll come out probably over the next month or two. I can't even remember.
Basically,
20.
basically, your listeners have got a lot to be going at over the next sort of 6 to 12 months. That's awesome.
There'll be plenty of stuff.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute joy talking to you. I think at some point we'll have to do an in conversation with, because I could probably stay nattering for about another 5 hours, but sadly,
I always get carried away and just go off on tangents.
No, likewise. I think we've talked about loads of interesting stuff, and it's been a pleasure. So thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We will link below in the comments all your social media for those listeners. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you support Alanna Lyes on Facebook and Spotify, especially. Support your artists, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Catch you soon, mate.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Find us on Facebook, whatever that is, facebook.com/Prohibition MCR.